Welcome to Feminine Power Time. Turn off the chatter and tune in to what matters. This is Christine Arylo, your host, and I welcome you here to this place where we are reimagining the way we and the world work from the inside out. And we do that by marrying well-being, wisdom, and leadership, especially personal leadership. And today I welcome you to episode 256, what I like to call the December Downshift. The December Downshift is an annual practice that we start every year on December 1st. And I love this practice so much because it is like balm for the spirit, energy for the heart, permission to your body and your mind to actually get off the crazy pace, out of the crazy race, and this year especially, shift the energy. The December Downshift is a practice that we do to mimic what Mother Nature is already doing. If you look outside, at least the Northern Hemisphere, it is winter. And so things are, the trees and the bushes and the birds and everyone is slowing down. I mean, I'm here in Nashville, North Carolina, and there's not many leaves left on the tree. And I was just in Los Angeles, and while the palm trees still had leaves on them, it was a little cold in the morning and a little chilly at night. So you could feel that winter air. And I know some of you, many of you are in the Southern Hemisphere, so you have the opposite from a weather perspective, but from a life perspective and how we practice cyclical living, pathing, co-creating here. We're all at the end of a 12-month cycle, if you follow the Roman calendar, and we are nearing the end of the 13-moon cycle, which is the lunar year, which will end this year and complete in January 29th. So this podcast specifically is about helping you do what I call downshift. It's a practice that I created to help us overwhelmed, burned out, pace, push. To do this is something I do weekly, and I do it moonly. And we practice this in all of the leadership work I teach. We teach it in the feminine wisdom way. It's in Overwhelmed and Over It. But we also apply it to our year. And so what I'm going to do today is I'm going to share with you the 4 phases of downshifting, which are always the same, weekly, monthly, and in this case, yearly. And we're going to use it as a frame to help you downshift into the end of the year so you don't just kind of push through and get swept into what I call the crazy banana world that is, way more based on consumerism and over-connecting and overing than what this time of the year is really supposed to be about. I put my hand on my heart, and we see these movies, we watch the holiday movies, or we've heard the sentiments of peace and joy and connection and goodwill towards our fellow humans. And I think we need more of this right now than ever. And it always strikes me how one of the reasons why we call this reimagine the way that we in the world work is because in the absence of a different reality, the current mainstream media and cultural biases in imprinting that's been going around, well, let's just say for as long as the Roman calendar has been in place, we just get swept into the energy of it and the frequency of it. And then, like I talked about last time, we all of a sudden we're in the matrix, we're in the powerarchy, and we don't even realize that we are feeding the exact thing that we don't want the world to be. And I know for myself, I've been practicing the December Downshift now. I looked back, I started blogging about this in 2007. I've been podcasting on it ever since we started Feminine Power Time in 2015 or 2016. And so it's a practice I come home to. And so one of the things I love about being here with you all in this podcast is that sometimes I'm going to pull back, I'm going to pull out the practice that we use at this time every year because it works. And that's the structure part. But the way that the energy that we need to go into that particular structure is different every year. This is the practice of cyclical living and cyclical co-creating. It's like Earth is doing the thing that it's always doing. And we are part of planet Earth. We are not separate from nature, you all. We are nature. This is the crazy thing when people say to me, I'm going to go spend time in nature. I'm like, you are nature. It's just that maybe, we live in a concrete jungles, and humans have concreted over all these things, or built, whatever humans have done. But we are part of nature, and we have forgotten that as a culture. So one of the things we practice here in Feminine Power Time and in the Feminine Wisdom Way, and in all of the work that I do for sustainable success and creating a sustainable future for the generations to come, is we're like, okay, we're not going to wait for ABC News or CNN to have this, broadcasting. We're just going to do what we like to call #harmonic defiance. Which harmonic defiance means choosing the way of living, working, planning, making our choices that just create harmony. And then by that, we don't ask for permission. We don't even have to post it on Facebook or Instagram or whatever. We just do it. And so today I decided to do this particular podcast. I sat down and thinking about it over the last couple of days. As you can tell, my voice and my nasal passages are a little clogged. I caught a little cold, which can happen for me when I'm traveling back and forth. I was in Los Angeles, and then I came back, and I needed a little help this year to remember that my body is not a machine, and also that my mind and my spirit really has been overtaxed with the last 8 to 10 weeks of this year, particularly in America with the elections. But wherever we're living right now, I think that I know we are in this planetary evolution, and as we talked about last time, the heat has been high, and so many people I know have had personal challenges or deaths or changes or whatever it might be coming in their lives. So if we don't kind of not grab the reins, but kind of grab the reins from the banana world and then release them and say, you know what, I'm stepping aside from whatever the streams are that we've been in, that you've been in, that have been really intense. And I'm going to start downshifting body, mind, heart, and spirit. Take an exhale, because we're going to start this right now. Just let your body start to relax. I'm going to walk us through the structure today of each of the 4 phases. And as we go through these phases, the themes that came through to me for this year are the following: peace, presence, prosper, and people. Peace, people, prosper, and presence. Peace, people, prosper, and presence. And you can write those down if you want. I'll also put them, of course, in the show notes. And so this is the flavor. This is the frequency is a little bit different because we've never been here at this time before on the planet. But I do imagine, and I will continue to imagine, a world in which we see the last 4 weeks of the year as a space for downshifting and completing, and the first 4 weeks of the year to come as an upshift. And we'll talk more about that as we end today, that it's not, that remember, January 1st is a made-up day in the Roman calendar. It doesn't actually really have any significance from a natural perspective other than it falls 10, 11 days after December solstice. And but the actual Lunar New Year is not till the 29th of January. And so we also, in addition to the weeks of downshifting in December, we also take that month of January as we go into the Lunar New Year to dream, to listen more deeply, to vision, and to set clear intentions. And so that's where we're kind of going. So whatever you need to do to just be open to listening and allow yourself to receive this today. I will also just say as an announcement for what I've been doing and what we'll continue to do this month. For those of you that would like to join us for the happenings, the December reflection ritual will be on the 22nd of December this year live, but you can listen to it anytime. Just go to reflectionritual.com and you can RSVP. It's my gift to you, and it includes a guidebook and also pre-taped videos that will walk you through it. But if you come live on the 22nd, we'll also post that recording and then share that with friends. Invite friends. You can bring anyone. It's gender agnostic, so all humans are welcome. So that's reflectionritual.com. And then on January 5th, we start the visioning and intention setting process for emerge visioning, and you can do that right from home, and we take 4 to 6 weeks to do that part. So go to emergevisioning.com, and would love to have you for that. And then for those of you that would really love support and structure for co-creating in 2025, that includes the emerge process and the December reflection ritual, join us for the Feminine Wisdom Way this year, and you can find out more about that at femininewisdomway.com. Okay, so all the things, lots of structure to support us. Okay, taking a little sip of water. So let's just take 3 breaths. Actually, let's take 4. So let's take the first breath and just breathing into your body. And just really feeling this beautiful body and all that it has been through this year. All that it has been through and all that it has also done for you. And just take a moment to scan your body to realize all of the ways it's shown up for you this year. And the places it's pushed, that it's risen, that it's met intensity, that it's stretched, that it's needed extra care. And let's just give it a minute of gratitude. And also let it know, like literally saying to your physical body, it's time to begin downshifting. And go ahead and take an exhale. You're going to find today, as often on Feminine Power Time, this is an embodied practice. Part of the reason we have a banana world is because it's so based in the mind, and it's missing 3 other parts that it needs to create a system that is really reflecting and based in wholeness. So part of how we create that world is by honoring that and practicing it with ourselves. So just letting all of your physical cells, your bones, your blood, your organs, your ears, your eyes, your toes, your nose, just saying thank you for all of the ways that you have met and all of the things that have shown up. Because without you, I wouldn't be able to do all the things that my mind and my heart and spirit want. And it's time to start the downshift. The first stage of downshifting, which we're entering right now, is relax. And relax means releasing tension from. So you can't even get into a place of rest or replenishing or regenerating, which will be the other phases for today and always the 4 phases of downshifting, until you relax first. So it's like we've been in 4th gear or 5th gear, and you can't just downshift hard into neutral. And that's why we overconsume sugar or alcohol or Netflix, or we go over connect or whatever, because we hard downshift instead of slow downshift. And so we're just going from 5th or 4th down one notch here to start releasing the tension. And as you feel that tension, as you're giving your body permission, you have to signal it. It's okay to start to relax. Feeling your diaphragm relaxing, your belly, shoulder blades. And then open up to your mind. This beautiful mind that in many ways is like a processor. It is really a machine and a processor. There is our higher mind that's much more connected to our spirit and our body and our heart. But we're going to just connect into the mind right now that's been your processor, that keeps track of things, that takes the insights that drop in from inspiration and uses the intellect to bring them into form. And so just tuning into your mind and giving some gratitude to all of the ways it's operated, much like I always think of it like a machine that makes cars, something that is always kind of running and the gears are always moving. And why so many of us have mental burnout when I'm working with women's leadership cohorts or teams, and I ask, what if I do a survey around the different kinds of burnout, mental burnout is always number one, because we don't give our minds a rest and a relaxing. So just imagine, and giving also some attention to your mind to say, it's okay to downshift. And in fact, I need you to downshift. And so feeling it and giving it permission to slow down, giving it permission to release all of the tension from trying to figure things out, trying to keep you safe, trying to make plans, trying to mitigate potential obstacles and challenges, trying to keep things in order and coherent, trying to think through what other people need or what you yourself need. And just letting it know we're going to be downshifting into these next 4 weeks, and it's okay to start to slow the pace. I like to imagine when I'm relaxing my mind, and you can do this too, just water, like a beautiful waterfall coming down of blue, kind of purple water. And blue is the color of equanimity, and purple, light purple lavender, the color of compassion. So just allowing equanimity and compassion to just move through your mind. And to let it know that as we start to downshift, as you start to downshift this month, its job is to not get hyped up and jacked up and try to figure everything out, but to come deeper and deeper into this state of equanimity, of peace. And we can only find peace when we're in the present moment. And as you do this, I want you to check in and sense into your nervous system. I feel like our nervous systems are a combination of our body and our mind. All the nerves, the vertebrae, the spine. And letting your nervous system know it's time to start to relax, to release the tension, the over alertness, the reactions. And you can just feel the ground underneath your feet and how the spine just comes in order, the place between your skull and your body, kind of the C1, C2 in your neck, just breathing into that space. Breathing in between, you could even touch the space right between your eyebrows, sometimes known as the pineal gland, also known as the third eye. Then touching the crown of your head. That soft spot would be, you're kind of right in the center where the pituitary gland is. Also, what's known as the gateway of consciousness. Just opening up that gateway to consciousness, that pineal gland, and just settling down. Take a deep breath out. And then let's just do your heart and your spirit together. So just tuning into your emotions. And the yogis like to say our emotions can be like wild horses running amok, or they can be like beautiful horses out to pasture, feeling safe with their herd, alert, but not on alert. And also knowing that hearts have been heavy, hearts have had all kinds of emotions. Just letting those heavy emotions or the irritations or the anger or whatever might have been in their grief, just kind of noticing like it's slowly like opening up a little drain and just letting that heavier emotion, kind of like sand, if you had a bucket of water with sand in it and you were to dump it into your sink or to a sieve, you're just like letting the water flow, taking that sieve, that grit, and just releasing it so that your heart can relax, pulling your energy back into your own heart instead of the heart of the world or the heart of others. Like this is a time as we downshift that you get to really tend to what your heart needs. And just feeling that relaxing where you don't have to hold the weight of the world or take care of all of the people and all of the things. And stay with me here. This is how we begin the downshifting. I know lots of us are tuning into lots of information, and our systems are overloaded with information. So what I'm offering you here might be different than what you hear on other podcasts. Podcast is just the form here. I'm offering you is a space to reconnect to your presence and to presence with a capital P as we tune into your spirit and relax this beautiful spirit of yours who has been connected and doing all of the things. I've talked to so many people in the last couple of weeks who have been, like I said, they've been out giving their light out to all these different people and places, like their light is like Halloween candy, and or their spirits were alive, and things that have happened in the last couple of weeks, they just have been almost like electrified or dampified. Spirits have taken a hit, or some spirits have gotten swirled up and lifted up into what we talked about last time. I call it like a false cyclone of hope. As I mentioned last time, no one on the planet is currently winning. And if you are in I've won or someone's won and someone else has lost mentality, we want to let that go and come back to the place of oneness and wholeness, which is our natural state of spirit. I think of when I watch the Christmas Carol every year, and there's the place where Ebenezer Scrooge is with the ghost of I think it's Christmas Present, and he brings out, I think it's like avarice and greed and can't remember the other two children, and shows him like, you might be living in this beautiful house, but when we live in a world where these children, and this is what's happening, you're not winning. And so you're depending on wherever your spirit is, and that I think all of our spirits have been affected. And so what's beautiful about this time that we're going into, which is the return of the light as we get into summer, winter solstice, and many of the different holidays and holy days, from Hanukkah to Christmas to Kwanzaa to so many different ones, they are about the return of the light. And so this can be a time of really, really like floofing up your spirit, or what they call in traditional Chinese medicine, our Wu Qi. And one of the reasons I know that this cold invaded my body is my Wu Qi, my spirit body has been impacted. And so what I'm inviting you to do is, this is like a cycle of like, okay, what has been has been. And now it's time for me to downshift and relax my body, my mind, my heart, and my spirit. So I'm going to ask you this question, then you can write this down or just sit with it, is what is currently straining or draining your peace of mind, your peace of spirit, your peace of heart, and your peace of body? What is currently straining or draining your peace? And think of that peace, contentment, equanimity, openness, your peace of mind, peace of spirit, your peace of heart, and your peace of body. And I'm going to give you these inquiries. I encourage you to write them down, or you can even just press pause for a moment right now and get really aware of what those are. I was just talking to a friend whose mother has been hot on a trail of speaking about one of the candidates of the United States election and can't set it down. And my friend said, Mom, when we talk, we just not talk about it. They actually agree about the candidate, but there's this incessant way her mind has not let go and relaxed. She's not relaxed the tension. Her spirit hasn't let go. Her heart hasn't. She's also in her late 70s, early 80s, and I can imagine for some people in that age range who might not see, hopefully, what is the possibility of going through this evolution and transformation to move into an age where it really is coming from, like we talked about last time, where power and wisdom and love come together, focused on wholeness to truly create a world that is coming from wholeness and harmony. Not a pipe dream, total possibility. It's just, will humans choose to co-destroy the world or co-create the world? More on that when we resume our Genuine Power podcast. But for all of us right now, what was interesting when she was sharing this with me was that her mom is now going in for heart surgery, and I doubt that her mom sees the link between this not letting go and continuing to feed the tension that's in her body, mind, heart, and spirit connected to the election and the choices that have been made in the United States of America. And for those of you listening in other places, I know we all can find this in our own lives of where is it time to support your body, mind, heart, and spirit. And if you look at all four of those separately and ask what's basically robbing me from my peace, what's straining and draining the capacity to allow your cells to feel peace. And why this is so important, y'all, is that when we don't have peace in our cells, in our being, in our brain, in our beingness, we have things like unease and fear and blame and shame and all these other things. And we have this potential in these next 4 weeks to really say, you know what? I need a break. I need a break from all of that. I need a spacer. This is the time in December where we reduce the intensity, reduce the pace to allow for space so that we can move into what would be the 13th cycle, which will happen the whole month of January this year, which is we always activate the superpower of grace, or the first month of the Roman calendar year. But imagine being able to downshift and clear out and open up so that as we flow into the 13th cycle in January and we look forward into this year, that you will have the space to set up your next year, regardless of what's going on in the external world, from a deep place of peace within yourself. And when we are at peace, the presence can come in. Your presence can come in. And peace doesn't mean that everything is holly jolly, have a holly jolly Christmas. I don't mean put on a fake face, but it is a piece of what so many wisdom traditions teach of being with what is. And we can't move forward to reimagining and creating what's next if we can't be at peace with what is. It's the surrender prayer, right? It's like, give me the wisdom. It's exactly it, but the one that AA ends up using, which is the surrender piece, which is about, allow me to see what I can change and be at peace with what I can't. Because then you and I, y'all, we get to use our energy, our life force, our resources, our wisdom to be part of Team Reimagine. To be that this is, there's more than one mainstream happening right now on the planet. I just picked up the book by Lynn Twist the other day. I was at my friend Heidi's in LA, and I like to use her book, Soul of Money. If you've never read it, it's such a great read. It's been out for 20 plus years, and I use it as an oracle. And I opened it up to a page that talked about a similar time. I don't know when it was, but an election had just happened, and these people who really thought that we're going to make a turn to creating this world where there was more based in peace and harmony. That was not the case, and they were devastated. And one of the things that they did two things. One is she talked about in this passage how there's actually more than one mainstream, that there's the mainstream that we see in the current world, a lot on the news and in many different realities, but there's another mainstream, so many people, and we'll talk more about this in the coming months. There's so many people who are here to and concede the possibility of a world that is not based in duality, reality, and polarization. And we don't have to keep fighting. We need to keep believing, and we need to keep in connection. But if our body, mind, and heart and spirits, you all, don't have some space this December, like, it's just, we're not going to have the energy, the stamina, the sense, the centeredness. And it's not just going to be January 1st, hit the ground running. Remember, it's a slow upshift into really March equinox. So I was talking to my friend who was putting all this pressure on herself, and this is kind of where we're going now to rest in place of, like, I have to get this done. I have to figure this out. That is not this time. So before we move into rest in place, one more thing on relaxing. I work with a lot of teams and do year-end power pauses for companies. And I know some ecosystems like really put the metal to the metal. What does that even mean? Like I was doing a year-end power pause for this group like the second week of December, and they were all stressed out about their quotas and their whatevers, and they couldn't even be present for reflecting on what it was that they had received this year. And I also just finished a leadership coaching, a leadership cohort for a group of people in the tech industry in this company, smaller company, but they have instituted things that are creating a downshifting. They're like, we only do things that are more focused on light and celebration. And I'm like, oh my God, I love working with you all so much. And so there are other companies that are doing this. And so for yourself, if you are in an ecosystem that is still grinding, pushing, ratcheting it up, you have the power within yourself of harmonic defiance to really start to relax and only do what's needed. I'm going to kind of move us forward. And for those of you that are already in that, great, 100%. And this is a different time. So it's important to give yourself the space to relax. I'll also say this other inquiry, what's draining your peace? Ask yourself the flip side. What would really support you to cultivate peace in this month? What would really support you to cultivate peace in this month? The practices, the rituals, the structure. So in addition to what's draining and straining it, what's going to really support you to sustain peace? Okay, let me take a little sip here. Thanks for being here, y'all. I wasn't going to do a new podcast because obviously I'm sniffly. I'm better, but I'm definitely sniffly, and I just really felt it was important to do what the teachings are, which is the structures stay the same, but the energy is different. I actually am being supported by my teachers, two of my primary teachers in the timeless earth wisdom tradition, and I'm in a 4-month, we just started yesterday, a 4-month dreaming time container that will run through December into March equinox. And they were the first people I ever did the December reflection ritual with. In fact, the part of the process I learned from them. And they've been doing this, they're in their 80s, for 40 years or something. But the flavor is always different. and based on what's needed, but the structure, because it's timeless, is timeless. Even what I just shared with you, body, mind, heart, and spirit, you all, that's that's the 4 parts of the human. We always forget the heart, and the heart is where it's at, because that's what will ultimately help support humanity to heal and elevate. We can't do it without the heart. So just in the 4 is balance, 4 directions, 4 parts. 4 is a table, creates stability. So just by doing that yourself, it's going to bring that into more reality into the world. So let's talk about phase 2 here. Remember, do join us for the reflection ritual, please. I think this is the 15th year that I have been doing a reflection ritual. So we'd love to see you. And Noah and I will also be doing a special one just for co-creative couples. So for those of you that are in partnership, that will be available for you as well to do together. Okay, second part of downshifting is rest. So I call it rest in place. And rest means no forward movement. No forward movement. So it's being still in the moment. So this means be present. So we're going to go back to presence, right? So remember, peace, people, prosper, presence. I'm going to talk about people here, particularly, and also presence. Is that resting in place is part of the downshifting. So you've relaxed. Now I'm resting in place. And these aren't linear. You'll probably be doing a variation of these kind of over time, over the course of weeks, but you can come back to this. Oh, right, I'm resting in place. So resting in place is being in the present moment. No future planning, and no just putting pressure on ourselves to be where we're not. Where we create the self-induced pressure, like, oh, we have to get this done, we have to get that done. There's any space we think we have to get all the projects done, or why haven't we done this already? I was just doing a coaching call with a client, and she's just hit her 6-month mark of being in her new position, and she was having a lot of anxiety and putting pressure on herself to figure out how to, really best support her team and get a good team structure and be an example in the company and all these things that need to happen. And I just said to her, I'm like, dude, I didn't say dude, but dude, I'm like, takes 6 months to get into a new position and job just to set harmony. You've done that. It's all good. And yes, all these things, they are coming for next year. And what we're going to do is we're going to put some structure in place so that you have a place to land in January and February with you and your team. But take a breath and you've done a lot. It's time to receive. So resting in place is this month, allow yourself to not have to start anything new. No new things get started, number 1. And there'll be a podcast next week on some of this, of how to complete the year and release things that need releasing and all of that, but no starting new things. If there are some seeds or threads you want to bring through to next year, this is a great time, rest is a great time to be doing creative things on the inside that matter to you, but not about bringing it into form and having to put it out there. So, for example, I have some changes I've been wanting to make to my website to make the work I do with teams and organizations more visible, because it's not on there at all. And so I am going to work on that in December and in January and in February, and I'm working towards that being, ready towards the end of February or March equinox. But I'm not putting any pressure on myself. And rest can mean creativity. Rest isn't just I'm laying on the couch doing nothing. Rest is resting in place, being in the present moment. So it's this great time for creativity, the things you're oh, I feel really inspired to interact with this now. Oh, I feel really, inspired. Look for those things in the resting time frame that are about being in the present moment. I just saw a post on the Feminine Wisdom Cafe from someone today when I was posting about the new moon, and she's like, I'm just making all the meals for my family for the rest of the week because I'm ready for this December downshift, and it's giving me so much joy. That's resting in peace. And so One is like really like just be aware of oh, I don't have to go anywhere. I don't have to make these things happen, and start to notice. I'll just ask you the question, where are you creating self-induced pressure to get things done that can actually really wait till next year, or that just need to be started a little bit, to be engaged with, but not making them happen? Where might that be happening for you? Or where might you be future planning and trying to figure things out? This is not the time, y'all, to be figuring things out. It's gonna, your mind needs to rest. Your body gets to rest. And then your heart, how it rests in place or rest in peace, I like to think, like not like in the dying kind of way, but rest in peace in the moment, is to really savor the present. Like savor what's happening as it's happening. And if you're in the future, if you're busy trying to get all the things done or figure it out, you're going to miss those moments. So savoring the moment. You can also, another practice is, and this comes to the people part, see the good in people. See so much of the bad in people flying around in too many spaces and places. Look for the good. That will fill your heart up. That will allow you to rest in peace so much. Be in connection with others that are just about being in the present now, that will support you to rest in peace and feel good in your heart. And so just starting to like maybe even put your hand on your heart for a moment. And who are the people you already know that you want to be around, that support you to do that? And the last part is putting structure in place for January and February so you know it's there. So this is why, like I'm not freaking out because I know I have a 6-week emerge process that starts at winter solstice and actually takes me all the way into the middle of February. And so I do it not just to create the space for everybody else, but I do it because it supports me. And I know, because I've done it for so many years, I will pop out the other side knowing and having such a deeper sense of where I'm going because I've created the space. That's why I'm doing the 4 months with my teachers, because I'm like, I'm creating space for all these people. I need someone to hold space and structure for me. And I get to be in a triad with this, 2 elders, which really makes me feel good so that I have other people to lean into. So resting in place. Be present, not future planning. Be present, choose to savor. Be present with good people, see the good people. 4, put structure in place. For January, what is that structure you can put in place for January and February for yourself, for your team, for your family, so you know it's there? And then lastly, also remember in December, it's so essential to reflect. It's part of resting in place, is to reflect, to receive, and release. So that's going to bring us to our third part of downshifting. So we had relax, tension release, rest in place, just going to be in the now. And also remember with that resting in place, we use the practice, the harmonizing work wiser practice of reflowing. Oh, I'm going to reflow that into January. I can reflow that into February. And just let it land there, and then you get to pick it back up so that you can really create this space to rest in place. So then when we move over to replenish, that's the thing, right? So we've released tension. You are in the present moment, resting in place, resting in peace, resting in place, trusting. And now, like a chalice, like a lake, you get to refill. Replenish means to refill, to nourish, to refill resources, to nourish, to fill up body, mind, heart, and spirit. So to replenish resources and life force. And so there's so much to say about this piece, but I'm going to make it super simple for y'all. First of all, one of the best ways to make sure that you're doing this is to really watch your overgiving and your overdoing, overgiving, over consuming, over connecting, over caretaking, getting out of balance of that overgiving and over receiving. There's a whole podcast on it, podcast number 198. I've actually done so many different holiday, kind of doing the holidays, different podcasts. I put them into a series. 198 is one of them. I will put a link in the show notes so that you can link to it yourself. And just think about, just kind of take a moment. Let's just do this somatically. You need to close your eyes. So I invite you to close your eyes. Let's just slow it down. Oh, felt like resting in place. You always like wrangling us. Like just be here now, right? So that kind of sped things up. So let's slow things down, because you can't replenish if you're moving around like the Energizer Bunny. So coming back to your mind, body, heart, spirit, and imagine your body like a chalice or a beautiful vase with a very wide opening, or any kind of vessel that is just open to receive. That is what replenishing is all about. And feeling light and water and nutrients and all of the things that nourish you. And intending that this December, all the way as we start to rise into January, new moon this year will be, I think it's like December 31st, December 30th. You want to come to that point and have a good amount of replenishment. You don't need to be fully replenished, because if you give yourself still those beginning weeks of January, thinking of, gosh, okay, it's not just December. December 31st, I have to stop replenishing. You want to be at least, 75% replenished, so that in January, you get really full. And the good is the best way. So what that means is you want to really stay aware in December of your giving and receiving, and not over giving or overdoing or over consuming or overspending, all the things that drain. And this is the prosper part. Prosper means to thrive. And so it's really easy to consume too much sugar, to spend too much money, to overconnect and accept lots of invitations, or maybe even to underconnect or under receive the things that you need. And so just imagine here where you have your hands out even, and that you're giving and receiving in a really beautiful way. And that to ask yourself, what would really replenish me in December? What would replenish your mind? Perhaps to focus on other things that are not just about productivity or just resting in place. What would really replenish your mind these next 4 weeks, and even going into January? Having that space to imagine, having that space to not know. Like, allow yourself to feel into December, but also, as we said, into January. What would really replenish your heart this season? What would really replenish your body this season in December, going into January? Just let yourself see it, feel it, imagine it. Your deeper wisdom already knows. And if you have a strong daily presencing practice, you might be able to tune right into presence right now. If you don't have a strong presencing and centering practice, it might be a little bit more difficult. So that's okay. You can write this down and come back to it, listen to this again, contemplate it, and then draw it out where you can see it. Use visual thinking. And then what's really going to replenish your spirit? And then I'm coming back to that vessel and just feeling like, okay, like these are the activities, these are the connections, these are the people. These are the things that are really going to support me to feel as if I'm prospering. And then what are those things that might look like they're going to replenish you and nourish you, but really actually steal from you and take from you? I mean, sugar is the most obvious one. I think sometimes that we overindulge in December and it could be in spending money, over caretaking, over consuming, because we've been so deprived of so many things the last 11 months. This is why we practice cyclical pathing and living and co-creating, so we don't end up there. And even though I have a cold, I am not in a cycle of burnout where I used to be, where I would crash, and then be sick, for the last 2 weeks of the year every year. This is I know why this cold got into my body, and given the current circumstances, it's okay. But I want to make sure that I'm supporting my body, right, and my being and my mind to replenish. It doesn't mean not have any sugar, but also doesn't mean just keep ratcheting it up. So what is that, for you? What are those crutches or those things you usually overindulge in that end up then come January, they're subtracted from you? And so that's where we make these choices. This practice of downshifting, you all, it really is so much about the choices we make, the rhythm that we set, and the connections that we choose. And in tuning into your body and knowing, is this going to drain me or strain me, or is it actually going to replenish? And so one of the things, the practice we're going to end with today is called the 3 harmonizing words, or harmonizers, where you choose your holiday harmonizers. And there are 3 words or 3 phrases that you want to feel as you cross over from December into January, towards the end of the Roman calendar 12-month cycle, into the 13th month, which this year is the whole month of January. Oh my God, we get a whole moon focused on grace. How do you want to be feeling so that you can keep receiving as we go into January? The first, that receiving is such a big part. And that moves us into the last piece of downshifting, which is always regenerate. And regenerate means to turn the energy over. Regenerate is like, I have enough energy, I can kind of start the car. So you can think of it like a battery of a car. It's been charging and recharging, and there's enough battery to turn it over. But what ends up happening is that we end up turning it over when we're 75% full, and then giving it away, and then we end up depleted again. So we don't want to do that. So we're going to end with regenerate, but let me give you this practice. So I want you to close your eyes and just feel yourself exactly where you're at right now in time. Just going to locate yourself, whatever the day is. And then see yourself downshifting and walking through and engaging in the last days and weeks of December. Connected to peace, cultivating peace, presence, connecting with people that sustain you, prospering. And then see yourself crossing over the Roman calendar, New Year, into January, but also coming to that end of the moon cycle, December 30th, and then moving into the whole month of January and being just like, I'm going to be ready for that next moon cycle, to really be open for grace to come in. And when we're sick or we don't feel good, body, mind, heart, and spirit, it's hard to let that grace come in, that spirit, that higher energy, that higher intelligence. And we want to be ready to receive that that amazing light that's going to guide us forward. It's going to guide you forward, and then have that light, that grace go into your intentions, into your focuses, into what it is that you're going to say yes to co-creating in this next cycle as we go into this next year and step into this next 20-year cycle. But your job right now is to make choices, set a rhythm, choose connections that truly nourish you and support you to prosper. And like the trees that are here, the plants that are here in the northern hemisphere that are just pulling their energy in right now. Or in the southern hemisphere, they're open up and they're receiving the light right now. How do you want to feel as you go into January, so that you can be ready to receive the wisdom, the guidance, the insight to help you focus on what will truly support you to thrive and also do your part and be your part in this world of amazing co-creators? And so just checking in on your mind. How do you want your mind to feel as you cross into this next year? And you start the new year. How do you want your body to feel? It could be a word or a phrase. How do you want your spirit to feel? And then lastly, how do you want your heart to feel? Now write down those 4 words. And those are called your harmonizing words. And you want to write them down where you can see them. Sometimes I will write them in a shape. I'll make a diamond and I'll write one on each corner, or I'll use the same shape we used at the last podcast around the how we get out of powerarchy into true power, which is the elevation symbol of the circle with a triangle, and I'll put one in the center that feels like it kind of encapsulates everything, and then I'll put one on each side, or I'll put the heart in the center, and then one on each part of the triangle, and then put that up where you can see it. And then you make your choices based on that throughout December, moving into January. They're called harmonizers because they help you come back to center. So think harmony, harmonizing. How do I stay centered, calm, clear, radiant, rooted in right relationship? So you use them proactively, look at them every morning in your centering practice before you start your day, put them up where you see them, and if you get out of whack, come back to those. And you can also use them almost like a silent mantra in the morning as a meditation to whatever those words are. And then if you, for example, with mind, mine was just clear and calm. So I would sit and I would say to myself, clear and calm, and maybe bring in a visual and allow that to come in, or work with an element like water or something that feels like it's from the natural world, not the man-created world. And make that part of a meditation that you could do daily or weekly to help you with your downshifting and harmonizing. And that is how we stay centered. And that's how we walk through this time so that we can be ready for that grace. Full permission, you all, to downshift this December. Relax, rest in place, replenish, and then regenerate. We will turn over the energy in January. You do not have to start up the engine right now. Just keep recharging, relaxing, resting, replenishing. And that as we go into that next turn, we will regenerate. I will be doing my yearly podcast, which is setting the stage for how to think about, we call it feminine wisdom for the year ahead. And I have a special guest coming for that one. So stay tuned for that. I'm going to do it, I think, on the last new moon of 2020, this year, kind of crossing into the new year. And just remember, you are invited to the December 22nd reflection ritual, reflectionritual.com, RSVP, and do share that with your friends. Most of you know I don't engage in the world of social media and email craziness. So we rely on our listeners here. You guys aren't really listeners, and you're not listeners. Our community. We're here. We're a community together. So please share. It just helps us get the word out. And then join us for the Emerge Visioning. Starts on January 5th. Technically, we start on the 22nd because it is the pre-parts are reflection and the dreaming time. But we have our first live session on the first Sunday of this year, which will be January 5th, Emerge Visioning. And then, of course, if you want to have support and structure for the year, all that's included in Feminine Wisdom Way. This is all on my website. You can see it in the events section and on any of those pages. And let's see, in closing. Well, I'm hearing the words of Jimi Hendrix from last time, which is when the love of power becomes the power of love, the world will know peace. And I think us doing this reflection time and this receiving time and this December Downshift is part of that. I've been tuning deeply into some of my teachers who are on the other side today. In fact, I opened up a book from one of them, and the message just keeps coming is, in one of the mainstreams, all we see are so much negativity and how people are separate and all this negative stuff. And there's no positive imagery. There's not enough positive imagery, positive things that are showing that humans are good by nature. And so looking for that evidence of the good in people and using the energy of this time to find that peace within our own selves and to feel and see all the ways you're prospering. There's so much easy to kind of get into lack, but there's so many of us already have. And I just, I just invite us all to let that holy day spirit, that spirit of grace, that spirit of humanity, that spirit of honor, that spirit of life wanting to be born more through each one of us, to come in and guide us. And no, it's not about a Pollyanna rose-colored glasses. Rose-colored is good because it is the color of grace, and it is being with what is while also embracing our co-creative power. And more on all of that to come. We will resume the Genuine Power podcast that will be dropping sometime this month as well. But I'm just going to go in with the flow. So I look forward to hopefully being with you all in community, and I will be with you all back here as well. And thank you for your presence on the planet and for all that you do to be like I like to call a good human, a human whose heart is open, whose spirit is light, whose body is present, and whose mind is guided by a higher wisdom and knowingness that we can create a world that is truly rooted in wholeness and humanity. So sending you all off with much love, and we'll see you next week.